Hello, welcome to the Black Salt Mirror. This one is for the secret keepers. So I am told. There is a truth coming out that you have been keeping for so long that it's kind of made you uncomfortable with the idea that now it's free, because you were so very accustomed to no one knowing, to making sure that no one found out, to making sure that the things that you said didn't seem suspicious and didn't cast any wondering eyes on your secret. Today I have the Woven Path Tarot. They have some zodiac cards, so Taurus came out. And it's a boy riding a bull. It reminds me of a few fables. I think there's even one about this thing in particular, but I can't remember. Maybe you know it or it's significant to you. But Taurus is the grounded sign in the zodiac. It's very hardworking, very stalwart, but very comfortable. It doesn't like the flash that Capricorn likes. Taurus just wants to have a nice, comfortable life. You have the Wheel of Fortune with snakes. There's a skin in a raven, or maybe it's a crow. There's two of corvids, 3. It can be significant. These flowers, I don't know what they are. They look familiar. And we have the 7 of Wands in reverse, which looks like a tower. She's put herself up on this tower as she beats away. Oh, it's a sewing needle. She's sewing the tower around her so that they can't get to her. But this came out in reverse. So many messages that come to me lately are reminding people that things have changed, that everything has shifted, that what you thought was, or what you knew was, in the way that you were, and the things that you were hiding, and the parts of yourself that could never be expressed, and the way that you always felt secret. You yourself were secret. That has finally changed. Now you are grounded in part of this earth. The bull has come out. And the times have shifted. The snake has shed its skin, and this is the time of the underworld coming. These are all symbols of illumination, and that she's wearing a veil. The veils are also symbols of the movement from the other side to earth. There's been a shift in the differentiation between the waking physical world and the other side. And this new shift that we went through, this new paradigm, they interact differently. There's less of a distinct demarcation. Now there's a flow between them, which is the way it's supposed to be, because energy is always supposed to be flowing. So it was kind of like that wall that was built at the time to protect and shield is now being unwoven. That's why this came out in reverse. The tower comes down. At first I thought this was the tower because I saw it, and then I realized, no. So not a major arcana. More of a personal card. And the woman here makes me think that it is personal, particularly since her hat reflects the woman in the Wheel of Fortune. And the boy is your inner child, I'm being told. He reminds me of a lot of boys in stories, like the Never-Ending Story type children's novels, were they? So this is about you. I just realized there's a dragon on the back of this deck. I never saw that before. Can you see it? Maybe not so well. And a fish in a cup from the Page of Cups. you had built or constructed, since she's sewing, it always comes back to art, because sewing is a craft and an art form. And it's got these flowers coming out of the cord, like it's decorative sewing or embroidery. That reminds me of The Scarlet Letter, which I had to read in school. And in the beginning, she's in prison with her baby, who she'd had out of wedlock and was thus an adulterer. And they made her sew an A onto the front of her dress. However, she was an extremely talented seamstress, so she made it really pretty and decorative, and it pissed everybody off, which was fantastic. I loved that element of the story. She's like, you want to ask a seamstress to sew? It's gonna look good. Even though it was technically a punishment. And I seem to remember in that story too, she wasn't properly shunned afterwards because she was such a talented seamstress. People still came to her to have things embroidered. So she still was able to independently support herself. I think the husband wasn't there, so she was technically a single mom by our standards, but they didn't allow that. But she was still allowed to be a seamstress, which there are a lot of things that have been coming up into my notice for these channelings about the independence of women historically, and how, even though the structures were built for them not to be, a lot of women managed to subvert them. Like spinsters, the original term came from the idea that women were spinners, and they were so talented at their craft that they didn't have to get married, that they could make enough money in the trade to support themselves. And then it became a bad thing because you don't want an independent woman. That's always been a threat. A woman who doesn't need a man to take care of her or hold her down, and who can do what she wants. That is a threat to a patriarchal system that tells men that their reward for being subjugated is that they can then subjugate someone else, the lesser sex. When you start getting into teaching people equality, then you have a problem. And that if you're all equal, but someone's better than you at something, then they will succeed more at you. I was thinking of people, there's a certain type of person who comes into power, who doesn't express their natural abilities, but who, instead of going out and becoming better, attempts to subjugate everyone else around them who they know is better so that they can shine. And I don't think anyone in this collective could get fulfillment from something like that, from knowing that the only reason everyone else is worse than you is because they've been crippled by either you directly or people on your behalf, so that you appear higher when you are inferior, in fact, and not following your purpose. I don't think most people could find reward from that. And that's on top of the things that you will feel and experience from not fulfilling your purpose, because you have one that you're not fulfilling if you're attempting to fill this other slot that other people are attuned for, because they're naturally inclined and they're good at it and they're passionate and they put in the work. That's part of it, is to put in the work. And this takes me back to the Seven of Wands. You had to put in a lot of work up until this point into protecting yourself. And when you're protecting yourself, you can't put that work into anything else. Your artistic crafts and hobbies, your embroidery, your sewing, your knitting, I'm getting fencing and some sort of martial art with the men down here. Something with long poles that you use to like strike and parry and such. That's not up my alley. They said the buffalo has come. That must mean something, because I don't know that phrase. but they say the buffalo has come. I don't even think that's a buffalo, but longhorns, deer. Let's see what else we've got. Can you tell me more about the buffalo? Whenever Taurus comes out, you need to make sure that you're focusing on enjoyment and luxuriousness, because Taurus is very warm, soft blanket, chocolates in front of the fire, kind of a sign. Let's see, we've got the King of Swords. At first I thought he was in one of those death boats, because this looked like water around him and his sword on top of him, but I think he's standing and holding a very long contract in one hand and a sword that could be bloody on the end, although it kind of looks like it's being smelted because it's glowing yellow and orange on the tip, but there does appear to be a drop of something coming off. What else do we have here? The Four of Wands in reverse. It's got a fox family here, and the bigger ones have wings. One of them appears to have, oh, they both have antlers, the adults. And the babies, it looks to me like this baby is coming out of the fire, like being born from the fire. And the Four of Wands is typically a celebration. But it's in reverse. So there's a truth that's not celebrated. There are those. Some of these things around him look like flowers and some look like butterflies, but they look very similar to one another. When you come into this life, you have a soul contract. So you've agreed to do certain things. This extremely long scroll he's holding with the wax seal is reminding me of this. And you've agreed to it, but you don't remember that usually in life. Some of us have inklings of purpose and we kind of can feel what direction it's in or if it's farther off in our lives that will accomplish it. And we're all drawn to things, which are our guides for what to move towards. And sometimes you have to spend a lot of time coming out of childhood, relearning how to follow things that are pleasurable because you were taught not to. But the sword in the suit of swords is the sword of truth, and this is glowing. And his eyes are glowing. And he's got this halo around his head of wind. And it's saying the truth of your contract is coming out now. And this ties back with the fire into the Phoenix modality. I don't know what these guys are. I could look at the guidebook and see if it tells us. But we are past that point now of being born from the fire. It's probably what they are, some kind of fox phoenixes. Being reborn from the fire. The truth of the soul contract is coming out now. Because that wasn't the part that you contracted to. That was just the lead up and the lessons to get you to the part that is now that you've contracted to. I am going to check the guidebook to see if it says what these guys are, because I'm curious. I love learning about mythological creatures. Let's see. Oh, it's got the zodiac in here too. See if it says anything about Taurus. And who this bull is. No. Keyword, stability, fortitude, indulgence. That's the keyword. Indulgence, associated with the Hierophant. And old bull indulgently meanders through a field of beautiful flowers, slow, steady, and true. Upon its back it carries a young child, having carried many burdens. This is nothing by comparison. The child sits securely, knowing it is safe and protected, guarded by the stable force of the bull as they wander. It's cute. Cups, coins, wands. Celebration, enthusiasm, enjoyment. Out of the darkness, wands burst into light. As supernatural orbs hover upon them, suddenly the mysterious, slightly daunting atmosphere is completely altered to one of celebration and joy. Four-winged foxkin seize the opportunity for reverie, carousing, dancing, and playing with each other. Okay, that makes sense. I don't know what they said about it. Doesn't say what they are, though. So there's not darkness anymore. There wasn't darkness here to begin with. There's this in the background because we're in a different place, and they're going to keep having me tell you that. So if you're watching multiple videos, you're going to hear that a lot around this time. But this place is different, and you are different here because you are attuned to it. Think of fish. They have gills. We have lungs. We breathe air. They breathe water. If you take them out of the water, they can't breathe because they have to pull the oxygen out of the water. That's what the gills are designed for. There are many types of fish that have to constantly keep swimming to move the water over their gills, like sharks. Sharks are very, very old. They haven't evolved a whole lot, so they can't pull water in the way some more evolved species down there can. They have to move through the water, which is not a problem because they're fish, but that's how they work. And they're saying, this is how you work now. There are parts of you that were not attuned to the earlier parts of your life in the old reality that you couldn't figure out how to plug in. And you would have known early on in life how to do it, but it wouldn't work. So you thought you were crazy. And you're like, I know that I'm supposed to be able to manifest this way and get what I want. And I'm supposed to be able to feel happy in this way, and I never can. And it confused you, and you started doubting yourself. And they're saying it was never your approach and your methodology because you know how to do this. It was where you were. The energy wasn't attuned to you the way it is now because we were in the upside down. Or we were from the upside down. I always think of us as being upside down, and then it flipped. So we were on the wrong side, but now we're on the right side. And now the truth comes out. Now the sword of truth glows. And I'm drawn to his crown with the 3 spikes, which is also glowing. You can really tune in to your subconscious now in a way that you couldn't before. Some of you may have noticed it, some of you may have not tried because you've given up. But they're saying try again. And try in different ways that you hadn't been able to before, or that you hadn't had success with before in the way that you thought you should, because it's different now. Again. 3 of coins. And work with the ravens. There's an eye. You see it? On his chest. They can see you, and they can help you, and they can send messages to you. All right, one more for luck. That's more than one. The Ace of Wands. Oh, there's of course a second one because they don't listen to me and they always want to say more. Now is the time you can say more. I think a lot of you have been honing your ability to communicate And many times when you're the most authentic, there will always be people who come out and say they don't understand. And you don't believe that someone cannot understand, or it's not something that is made to be understood. And they're saying people that don't want to see will choose to not understand, and you don't have to explain your art to people because it is emotive. Whenever I talk about this, I think of paintings. Like, some people will go to art and they'll say, what does it mean? People ask that of tattoos all the time. It doesn't mean anything. It's art. It makes you feel things. It makes you think things. And it is not someone's job to explain it to you, particularly not the artist. So they say, make your art, don't explain. Just make your art. And the people that it's meant for will get it. So here we have the burning, the great passion. This looks like a swamp. There are some types of forests that have to be burned. They're designed for it. The trees have a kind of bark that needs to be shed, but it's shed in the fire. There are certain types of pine cones that are sealed shut so tightly they can't pop open until the fire melts them. I'm thinking of a swamp system. I did a whole report on it in school years ago. But there are places that need the fire, and that they've evolved to have the fire and to benefit from it. And things like the pine cones, it's very protective for the pine cone not to be able to be cracked open until the fire comes. So in that way, they've learned to work with the fire so that it helps them and doesn't burn them. And this is another part of the shift for you, is that a lot of your gifts burned you in the past because they were too much for people, because they didn't have a niche yet, because your audience wasn't in alignment, they're saying. But now they are. That's why the stars are up there. Now is the time. And these look like lilies down here. I don't know if they are, but those are going to be significant too. And the one that peeked out is the Two of Wands. Looking ahead, birds are going to be very significant. I've seen them everywhere lately. And they say you can look ahead now. And I don't think that they mean just that you can plan for the future. I think they mean you have the ability to see ahead and articulate it and adjust for it, which is one of the gifts you have, is foresight, the communication of foresight. And for yourself, you can redirect. I guess if you tell other people, they can redirect as well, but that is your gift. And they're saying it's for all the suffering, that you have this gift now to ease the burden of the future. So use it, because it was for you, for your victory. And again, with the star on her head, ask us for help. We're here for you. We know you need help, and we are able to help you now. Let us fly for you. Let us be your eyes, and you will be successful. All right, my loves. I hope you are all doing very well. I will see you again soon, and I think of you often.